Have you ever loved someone so deeply, only to realize they never truly saw you? You poured your heart into them, your time, your energy, your hope, and in return, all you got was silence, indifference, excuses. And now, you're left picking up the pieces of a love that was never really love at all. If this hits home, stay with me. Because today, we're diving into the hard truth about one-sided relationships and how to rebuild yourself after giving your all to someone who gave you nothing in return. This isn't just about moving on. It's about rising stronger than ever. And trust me, you don't want to miss this. There's a special kind of loneliness that doesn't come from being alone. It comes from being with someone who makes you feel invisible. You stand right in front of them, heart open, words spilling out, and all you get in return is silence. Not the comfortable kind, but the kind that makes your chest ache. The kind that makes you wonder, do you even see me? Do you care at all? It's not the fights or the harsh words that break you. It's the absence of warmth when you need it most. It's the way they listen but don't hear you. The way they're present but never really there. This silence isn't just quiet. It's a language. It speaks in shrugs, in half-hearted replies, in the way they change the subject when you're hurting. And the longer it goes on, the smaller you become. You start to question yourself. Am I too much? Not enough? But here's the truth. Love shouldn't leave you guessing. Real care isn't a puzzle you have to solve. When someone truly values you, you don't have to dig for proof. You feel it. You don't have to beg for their attention. They give it freely. Think about the people in your life right now. Do they light up when you walk into a room? Or do you have to fight just to hold their gaze? Do they ask about your day and actually wait for the answer? Or do they nod absent-mindedly while scrolling on their phone? The difference between being loved and being tolerated is in the details. It's in the way someone's face softens when you speak, the way they remember the little things you thought they'd forget. Love isn't just about grand gestures. It's about the quiet, consistent way someone says, I'm here. I see you. You matter. But when that's missing, the void it leaves is deafening. You start to shrink, to silence your own needs because it's easier than facing their indifference. You tell yourself, maybe if I ask for less, they'll stay. But that's the trap. The more you dim your light to keep them comfortable, the more you disappear. And one day, you'll look in the mirror and realize you don't recognize yourself anymore. So let me say this loud and clear. You are not asking for too much. Wanting love that's attentive, kind, and present isn't selfish. It's human. If someone makes you feel like a burden for needing basic care, that's not love. That's their limitation. And you don't have to live in that emptiness forever. The right people won't make you beg for scraps of affection. They'll hand you the whole feast and say, take as much as you need. The first step to reclaiming your worth is recognizing the silence for what it is, a message. When someone refuses to meet you halfway, when their actions constantly say, you're not a priority, believe them. Stop filling their silence with your excuses. Stop twisting yourself into knots for someone who wouldn't even bend to catch you. You deserve a love that speaks, not just in words, but in the way it shows up, stays, and refuses to let you doubt your place in their heart. Because the truth is, the loudest love isn't the one that shouts. It's the one that whispers, I'm here, on the days you need it most, and never lets you wonder if it's true. There's a harsh reality we often ignore until it's too late. Some people aren't in your life because they love you. They're there because loving you is convenient. They'll show up when it's easy, when they need something, when your presence serves their purpose. But the moment life gets messy, the moment you need support instead of giving it, they vanish like ghosts. You're left staring at your phone, wondering why your calls go unanswered, why your texts are left unread, why you're always the one reaching out first. And the worst part? They'll make you feel guilty for noticing. They'll say, I've been busy, or you're overthinking it, as if your need for consistency is some unreasonable demand. But here's what they won't say. I only want you when it's good for me. They won't admit that their love is conditional, that their presence is transactional. They'll keep you just close enough to use you, but never close enough to truly know you. And over time, you start to accept crumbs because you're afraid of losing even that. You convince yourself that maybe this is all you deserve, that love is supposed to feel this unstable, this one-sided. But let me tell you the truth. Love is not a sometimes thing. It doesn't clock out when things get hard. It doesn't disappear when you're no longer useful. Real love is a choice, a daily decision to stay, to show up, to weather the storms together. Think about the people in your life who only appear when they need a favor, when they're lonely, when they're bored. They don't ask how you're doing unless it leads back to them. They don't celebrate your wins unless it benefits them somehow. And when you're struggling, they're suddenly too busy to answer a simple "how are you?" That's not love. That's emotional freeloading. They're treating your heart like a rest stop, a place to refuel when their own tank is empty, but never a home worth staying in. And the most painful realization? They know exactly what they're doing. They know you'll be there when they call. They know you'll forgive their absence. They know you'll make excuses for them because the alternative, admitting they don't care, hurts too much. But ask yourself this: why am I fighting so hard for someone who wouldn't even cross the street for me? Why am I settling for breadcrumbs when I deserve the whole damn meal? The moment you stop accepting convenience as love is the moment you start reclaiming your power. Because you don't exist to be someone's backup plan, their emotional safety net, their fair weather friend. You deserve people who choose you, not just when it's easy, but especially when it's not. People who don't just take from you, but pour into you just as much. People who don't just love you sometimes, but love you always. Not because they have to, but because they genuinely want to. So here's your wake-up call. Stop romanticizing potential. Stop waiting for someone to change, to finally see your worth, to start treating you the way you've always treated them. The right people won't make you wait. They won't keep you guessing. They won't love you in fragments. They'll love you fully, fiercely, and without hesitation. And if someone can't give you that, let them go. Because the greatest act of self-love isn't holding on. It's knowing when to walk away from what was never truly yours to begin with. You are not a placeholder. You are not an option. You are a priority. And if they can't see that, then they don't deserve a seat at the table of your life. Stop serving your heart to people who don't even have the decency to say thank you. The right love won't drain you. It will refill you. It won't leave you questioning. It will leave you certain. And most importantly, it won't just be there when it's convenient. It will be there because nothing in this world could keep it away. There is a special kind of cruelty in how some people react when you finally decide to protect yourself. You set a boundary, something simple, something reasonable, and suddenly you're the villain. You say no to being disrespected, and they call you too sensitive. You ask for space to heal, and they accuse you of being cold. You refuse to tolerate their inconsistency, and now you're selfish for demanding better. It's a psychological trap designed to keep you small, to condition you into believing that your needs are an inconvenience rather than a basic human right. And the worst part? It works. Over time, you start to question yourself. Maybe I'm asking for too much. Maybe I should just accept this. But here's the truth they don't want you to realize. People who truly care about you will never make you feel guilty for protecting your peace. They won't punish you for having standards. They won't manipulate you into thinking that love means suffering in silence. Real love doesn't demand access to you at all costs. It respects the lines you draw because it values your well-being as much as its own. The ones who fight your boundaries aren't fighting for you. They're fighting against losing control over you. Think about the last time someone made you feel wrong for saying enough. Maybe it was a partner who twisted your need for respect into you being difficult. Maybe it was a friend who acted wounded when you stopped always being available. Maybe it was family who called you ungrateful for refusing to accept toxic behavior. Their reaction wasn't about love. It was about power. They weren't afraid of losing you. They were afraid of losing the version of you that allowed them to do whatever they wanted. Because when you stop tolerating disrespect, when you stop bending to their will, you disrupt the unspoken agreement they relied on, their comfort at the expense of yours. This is where the manipulation gets dangerous. They'll weaponize your kindness, your empathy, your fear of abandonment to keep you compliant. They'll say things like, "After all I've done for you," as if love is a debt you owe rather than a gift you freely give. They'll play the victim, making your boundaries about their pain, flipping the script so that you end up comforting them for hurting you. And if you've ever fallen for this, if you've ever backtracked on a boundary because their guilt-tripping worked, understand this. You were never the problem. Their inability to respect your limits is proof of their selfishness, not your worthiness. The moment you start enforcing boundaries is the moment you'll see who truly values you and who just values what you do for them. The right people won't leave when you say no. They won't punish you for prioritizing yourself. They'll adjust, because losing you is a far greater fear than losing the convenience of crossing your lines. But the wrong people, they'll escalate. They'll test you. They'll push harder to see if you'll break, because to them, your boundaries aren't a sign of self-respect. They're a challenge to their dominance. So here's what you must do. Hold the line. No matter how much they guilt you, no matter how many tears they shed or accusations they throw, remember this. Your peace is not negotiable. If someone can't respect your boundaries, they don't respect you. And if they'd rather walk away than treat you with basic decency, let them. The cost of keeping them in your life is your self-respect. And no relationship is worth that sacrifice. You were never meant to be a doormat. You were never meant to shrink so others could stretch. You were meant to stand firm in your worth, to build walls where necessary, and to let in only those who knock with kindness. Because real love doesn't break down your boundaries. It honors them. It doesn't make you choose between their comfort and your dignity. It makes space for both. And if someone can't give you that, they don't deserve the privilege of your heart. Stop apologizing for protecting yourself. Stop feeling guilty for demanding respect. The right people won't need an explanation. They'll understand. And the wrong ones, their departure isn't a loss. It's the universe making room for those who love you the way you've always deserved. There is a particular kind of betrayal that doesn't come from hatred. It comes from the quiet resentment of those who claim to love you. It's the way their smiles tighten when you share good news. The way they change the subject when you talk about your dreams. The way their compliments feel hollow, their enthusiasm forced, as if your joy is somehow a personal affront to them. You don't just notice it. You feel it, like a cold draft slipping through the cracks of what you thought was a safe space. And the more you grow, the more they withdraw, until one day you realize they didn't want you. They wanted a version of you that made them comfortable. This is the unspoken truth about some relationships. Not everyone who says they love you actually wants to see you win. Some people only love you in fragments. When you're broken enough to need them, when you're small enough to make them feel big, when you're struggling enough that they can play the hero. But the moment you start healing, the moment you begin to outgrow their limitations, that's when their love reveals its conditions. Suddenly, your progress is met with backhanded praise. You've changed. Must be nice. I like the old you better. Think about the people who faded away as you've grown. The friends who stopped calling when you stopped being the one drowning. The family members who scoffed when you set boundaries instead of tolerating dysfunction. The partners who grew distant when you began loving yourself as fiercely as you once loved them. Their disappearance isn't coincidence, it's consequence. When you stop feeding their narrative, the one where you're forever the side character in their story, they have no use for you anymore. Because to them, your growth isn't inspiration, it's a mirror. And when forced to look at their own stagnation, some people would rather shatter the reflection than face what they see. This is why loneliness often accompanies evolution. When you level up, you don't just leave behind bad habits. You leave behind the people who benefited from them. The ones who like you anxious because it made them feel needed. The ones who preferred you insecure because it made them feel superior. The ones who kept you small because your bigness exposed their own unwillingness to grow. And while their absence may ache, it's not a wound, it's a surgery. The universe removing what would have eventually poisoned you. But here's what they don't tell you about growth. It's not just about becoming stronger, it's about becoming more discerning. Learning to differentiate between those who water your roots and those who only stick around to pick your flowers. Recognizing that real love doesn't wither when you bloom, it celebrates each petal. The right people won't feel threatened by your light. They'll borrow it to illuminate their own path. They won't shame your ambition. They'll stand on the sidelines cheering as you cross each finish line. So if you've lost people on your way up, don't mourn them. They weren't meant for the altitude. If your progress makes them uncomfortable, let that be their problem, not yours. Keep growing, keep glowing, and watch as your circle tightens to fit only those who aren't afraid to stand beside you in the sun. Because the greatest revenge against those who doubted you isn't anger. It's absolute, unshakable success. It's looking back and realizing their absence was the gift you didn't know you needed. You owe no apology for outgrowing what no longer fits you. The seeds of your potential were never meant to stay buried in the dirt of their comfort. So rise, unapologetically, relentlessly, magnificently. The right people will still be there when you reach the top, not because they followed you, but because they were climbing their own mountains alongside you all along. There comes a moment in every person's life when the cost of staying becomes greater than the fear of leaving, when the weight of their indifference finally outweighs your fear of loneliness, when the ache of their absence feels less painful than the agony of their half-presence. This is the reckoning, the quiet, earth-shattering realization that you've been loving someone who has only been tolerating you. And the most brutal part? They won't fight for you when you walk away. Not because you weren't worth fighting for, but because they never truly saw you to begin with. This is the paradox of letting go. You will grieve someone who is still alive. You will mourn a love that never really existed outside your own hopeful heart. You will cry for potential you saw in them, for the future you imagined, for the person you believed they could be, if only they cared enough to try. But potential is not love. Potential is a debt that never gets paid. Potential is a prison we build for ourselves when we confuse what someone could be with what they've shown themselves to be. And the day you stop paying installments on that fantasy is the day you finally become free. Think about all the times you made excuses for them, the missed birthdays they forgot, the late-night tears they ignored, the way they could go days without speaking to you, then act like nothing was wrong. You told yourself, they're just busy. They don't mean to hurt me. Love shouldn't be transactional. But here's what you didn't realize. Love isn't about keeping score, but it's also not about being the only one who shows up. You convinced yourself you were being understanding when really, you were just being neglected. You called it patience when it was actually self-abandonment. And the moment you stop, the moment you demand reciprocity, is the moment they'll call you needy. Because to them, your needs were never valid. Only your silence was. Walking away from someone who doesn't love you is an act of anger. It's an act of radical self-respect. It's looking at the evidence of their indifference and finally accepting the truth. They will never change. Not because they can't, but because they don't want to. And no amount of your love, no amount of your patience, no amount of your suffering will ever be enough to make them. Some people don't leave because they're afraid to lose you. They stay because they're comfortable. And comfort is the enemy of growth. But here's what happens when you finally walk away. The world doesn't end. The sky doesn't fall. Instead, something miraculous occurs. You start breathing again. You stop checking your phone every 5 minutes. You stop analyzing their tone, their words, their mixed signals. You stop shrinking yourself to fit the small space they allotted for you in their life. And slowly, without even realizing it, you begin to remember who you were before they made you doubt yourself. The version of you that didn't beg for crumbs. The version that knew, deep in their bones, that love shouldn't feel like starvation. Letting go isn't a one-time event. It's a daily practice. Some days, you'll wake up missing them so badly it feels like a physical wound. Other days, you'll feel nothing but relief. And that's okay. Healing isn't linear. But with every sunrise, the weight gets lighter. With every step forward, their voice in your head grows quieter. Until one day, you'll realize you haven't thought about them in weeks. Until one day, their name won't feel like a knife twisting in your chest. Until one day, you'll meet someone who loves you the way you once begged to be loved, and you'll finally understand why it never worked with anyone else. So if you're standing at the edge of this decision, terrified to jump, let me tell you this. The fall won't kill you. The landing will set you free. You are not losing them. You are reclaiming yourself. And that is always worth the cost. There is a sacred kind of strength that only emerges from the ashes of what you once thought you couldn't survive. It doesn't announce itself with fireworks or dramatic revelations. It whispers to you in the quiet moments. When you wake up and realize the thought of them no longer steals your breath. When you pass a place you used to go together and feel nostalgia instead of nausea. When someone mentions their name and your heart doesn't lurch like it used to. This is a metamorphosis no one talks about, not just moving on, but becoming someone entirely new. Someone who has stared into the abyss of abandonment and emerged not broken, but forged. The process of rebuilding after loving people who didn't deserve you isn't about erasing the past. It's about alchemizing it, taking the lies they made you believe about yourself and turning them into truth, taking the love you wasted on them and learning to redirect it inward, taking the silence they left you in and finally hearing your own voice again. This isn't recovery, it's reinvention, and it requires you to do the one thing they never could. Choose yourself relentlessly, unapologetically, as if your life depends on it, because it does. Think about how many versions of yourself you've buried to keep others comfortable, the dreams you delayed to accommodate their limitations, the truths you swallowed to avoid their disapproval, the parts of you that learned to make yourself smaller, quieter, less vibrant because your fullness made them insecure. Now is the time to resurrect those discarded selves. Not all at once. That would be overwhelming, but piece by piece, like an archaeologist carefully brushing dust away from something precious. Maybe today you reclaim your right to take up space. Tomorrow, your right to say no without explanation. Next week, your right to want more than the bare minimum. This is how you rebuild, not by forgetting what happened, but by using it as the foundation for something sturdier. One of the most painful realizations you'll have during this process is recognizing how long you've been gaslighting yourself, how you convinced yourself that breadcrumbs were feasts, that indifference was just their way, that love was supposed to feel this hard. Untangling those lies requires brutal honesty. It means looking back at red flags you deliberately ignored and forgiving yourself for ignoring them. It means acknowledging that sometimes you stayed not because you were weak, but because your capacity for love was weaponized against you. And most importantly, it means understanding that their inability to cherish you was never about your worth. It was about their limitations. As you rebuild, you'll encounter well-meaning people who don't understand why you're still hung up on something that happened months or even years ago. What they won't grasp is that you're not stuck in the past. You're excavating it. There's a difference. Healing isn't a race, and there are no shortcuts through the wilderness of your own transformation. Some days will feel like breakthroughs, when you finally delete their number or throw out the gifts they gave you. Others will feel like regressions, when a song comes on or a memory surfaces, and suddenly you're back at square one. Both are necessary. Both are part of the alchemy. Here's what nobody tells you about rising from emotional ashes. The person who emerges won't just be stronger, they'll be different. You won't love the same way. You won't trust the same way. You won't give of yourself with the same reckless abandon. At first, this might feel like a loss, like they've stolen some essential softness from you. But with time, you'll realize it's not softness you've lost. It's naivety. The new love you're capable of won't be smaller. It'll be smarter. It won't be guarded. It'll be discerning. It won't ignore red flags. It'll refuse to romanticize them. This isn't the death of your ability to love. It's the evolution of it. If there's one gift the wrong people give us, it's the clarity to recognize the right ones. After you've been loved in fractions, you develop an almost supernatural ability to spot whole love when it appears. You'll recognize in the way someone's actions match their words, in how they don't just apologize but change, and how they make space for your scars without making you feel broken. And when that kind of love finally comes, because it will, you won't question if you deserve it. You'll know, not just in your mind, but in your bones. So keep going, keep healing, keep choosing yourself, even on days when it feels like you're the only one who ever will. The most powerful revenge isn't making them regret losing you. It's building a life so vibrant, so full of genuine love and purpose, that one day you'll look back on their absence as divine intervention. They didn't break you. They initiated you. And what's emerging from the ashes isn't just a survivor. It's someone who finally understands their worth. Someone who knows that real love doesn't leave you in ruins. It finds you in them, helps you rebuild, and never asks you to apologize for fire that forged you. This is your Phoenix moment. Not the end of your story, but the beginning of the chapter where you stop being the casualty and start being the architect. Where you stop asking, why didn't they love me? And start declaring, this is how I will be loved from now on. The rest? It's not just recovery, it's revolution. If this video resonated with you, if you've ever felt the sting of loving someone who didn't love you back the same way, then let me tell you something. You are not alone. Healing isn't easy, but it is possible, and every step you take toward valuing yourself is a victory. So if this message spoke to your soul, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because this channel is all about real talk, raw healing, and reclaiming your power. You deserve love that doesn't leave you questioning your worth. Until next time, keep choosing yourself, keep rising, and remember, the best chapters of your life are still unwritten.